even though we're heading into week 5, there are still some teams that can lay claim to the undefeated crown or the unbeaten crown at this moment in the early stretches of the season. Let's talk about Houston Dash because they are going to face off against North Carolina Courage. You can catch this one on Friday. This is the game to kick all things off on week 5. You can find it at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. You can catch it on Paramount Plus. When we're looking at these two teams, these are also two teams that have kicked off their Challenge Cup. They were a couple teams that had the round one phase of Challenge Cup get underway. North Carolina Courage coming off of a late game thriller in that Challenge Cup game, and then they turned that around into week 4, but unfortunately weren't able to pick up a result there. Houston Dash, maybe some similar energy here. Look, this is a team I think that we're both high on. We consider them possibly one of those playoff contenders. And then maybe if we see some more results from them, maybe like an actual title contender. But the Dash have only got one win in these first 4 weeks in terms of the regular season. And the Courage, we're looking at them as a team that is still in rebuild mode and kind of really making games difficult, right, for other teams, no matter if they're these early contenders or not. We saw what they did in that Challenge Cup game, how they just kind of stay with you. But I'm not sure if there's going to be enough in terms of the offensive differences here between these two teams, that there is going to be like a draw. So I think in terms of the picks for this one, we could look at these two and say there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. So who are you feeling in this one?
I agree. Yeah, I just don't think that a draw is going to happen. I'm going to go with Houston in this game because Houston Dash, they are a team that's they've drawn a lot of games, right? They have 3 draws this year and 1 win, which does make them undefeated. That's why they're in this category of our undefeated teams. They're coming off that 0-0 draw to Washington that happened. But this is a Houston Dash side that has also had success in scoring goals, right? In the win that they did get over Chicago, it was 2-1. They got 1 goal against Portland Thorns, and that was a 1-1 draw that ultimately ended there. So they are finding the back of the net. It's just that little bit of lack of consistency. And I think it also goes up against the defense that they're going up against. And although North Carolina is a strong team, they are in this rebuild. North Carolina's been struggling a little bit with being able to string together wins, right? They started the year on a win, and it was a really good outside the box shot from Guile. But since then, North Carolina has struggled. 3 straight losses that they've picked up. Narrow scoreline losses, I will say, besides that San Diego 3-1 loss that North Carolina lost to, but they're coming off just a 1-0 loss to Gotham. However, North Carolina really hasn't been finding the back of the net as prolifically. It's almost, I don't want to say they get lucky with their goals because luck is a really, really like odd thing in the game of soccer because a team can be doing so well and then they get unlucky. I think unlucky is more common than lucky. And for North Carolina, they've been unlucky in their ability to find the back of the net. And with Houston and the attacking presence that they have, the ability for this Houston side to kind of attack you in a variety of ways has been really, really dangerous. Houston's playing at home in this game. So yes, I'm giving the upper hand to the Houston Dash over North Carolina. They've played equal amount of games, including the Challenge Cup at this point. And Houston's due for a win at this point because they're coming off 2 back-to-back draws.
Isn't that what's scary a little bit about it? It's like you're looking at a team, not only are they undefeated, but it also feels like they're due at the same time. Like that's a little bit of a scary combination, I think, when you're looking at this game. I mean, credit to North Carolina. I don't think it's for lack of effort, but I mean, when we're looking at their attempts on target, even just over the last 2 games, I mean, to go from 1 attempt in, I believe it was week 3, and then improve that to 3 attempts on target in just last week. I think you're kind of looking at that and you're saying, hey, like, how can we make this a little bit more respectable in terms of what we're trying to produce in front of goal? And I think when you're looking at the other side of Houston Dash, again, able to get those looks on goal, not only get shots up, but get them on target as well. And who knows, with the weeks as they go by and go through. Yeah, shout out to Lucy. I think everyone is picking Houston. I guess if you're in the chat, like, throw an H in there for H Town, I guess, if you're going for Houston. But I think if you're looking at the dash and the timing of this schedule, like we've been talking about, we're going into week 5. It's a week 5 preview. Maybe we're going to start to continue to see that chemistry and that cohesion between the attacking trio for Houston Dash, because I know that's something that you and I have chatted about on this show before. We're high on all 3 of those players, whether it's
Yeah.
Maria Sanchez, Diana Ordonez, or Ebony Salmon. But Salmon has been pushed out wide a little bit and has maybe had to kind of get comfortable and used to being that sort of
I like her
outlet.
out wide. I
Yeah,
do.
so
I think Diana Ordonez is much more effective centrally,
I
which
agree.
forces Ebony Salmon out wide, and Salmon can figure it out. She hasn't yet. She's been struggling in those wide areas, especially when you compare her to Maria Sanchez in the wide area, who it's her bread and butter out there. You put Sanchez centrally, she might get a little bit lost, but I think Ebony can figure it out wide because.
Well, I
Ordonez
think
is just more
we're starting to see it a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe in the first couple weeks, it was, you could sort of see like there's going to be a little period of adjustment here. And I think now that we're going into week 5, now that they've also had a Challenge Cup game under their belt, I think we're starting to see that kind of maybe the layers of comfortability as those are 2 players, who haven't had really the opportunity to play with each other, whereas like an Ordonez and a Sanchez have got, national teams together. Salmon and Ordonez, this is their first season together, as players. So getting, the familiarity with movements and stuff like that, playing off the ball with each other. I think maybe this is the game we're going to get to see them back to scoring those goals. So it sounds like you and I are both going for Houston. It sounds like everybody in the chat is going for Houston as well. Love that for the Dash this morning. So don't let everyone down, basically, is what we're trying to say. Let's talk about another undefeated team in this top segment. We're talking about Washington Spirit. They're on the road. They're going to face Chicago Red Stars this week. This one kicking off on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can catch all the action on Paramount Plus. Washington Spirit, undefeated to start this first 4 weeks of the season. I'm going to put us on blast here a little bit, Lisa. We weren't too sure what we were going to see from this Washington Spirit side. We didn't have them ranked very high going into the beginning of this season, but they are definitely setting themselves up in this early part of the year so that maybe they don't find themselves floundering in the later parts of the year. I mean, when we're looking at the standings, they're sitting within a playoff position at this moment at number 5. Maybe a little bit streaky. I think if you look at some of the results, a draw, a win, a draw, a win in their last 4 games.
It's been a consistent pattern. I don't know.
Yeah.
Throwing that out there.
They're on the road though. They've got some interesting history against Chicago. Bridgeview hasn't always been in the easiest place for them to play. I think when you're looking at these 2 teams, when you're looking at Chicago and their shape and the goals that they've been conceding, like, do you have a winner, loser, and or draw in this one?
Yeah, this one I honestly do think it could be a draw. I would not be surprised if I see people picking draw between Chicago and Washington. Washington is coming off a draw against Houston. And as you talked about, it was a win, tie. So like, according to the pattern, they should get a win in this game, but it's just not that easy, especially when you're on the road traveling to Bridgeview, where Chicago, they're okay at home. I think Chicago almost is a little bit better on the road, traditionally. But this Chicago side, they are coming off of a goal frenzy. 7 goals in the match last weekend for Chicago against OL Reign. They lose 5-2. But Chicago has been able to score, right? They have the biggest goals against in the league right now, at 12, but they've also got 9 goals for. And when you look at their games, they've scored in every single game. They've got 2 goals in their last 2 games that they've been able to put up. I've seen a lot of positive things from Penelope Hawking, the rookie in the draftee out of Penn State. She started all 4 games for the Red Stars. She scored a brace in these games. This is the only rookie to do that so far this year. There's a lot of positives at Chicago, and I think they're putting it all together every single week. They're building a little bit more. I mean, but to get demolished 5 goals against OL Reign is pretty humbling.
Oh
It's
yeah.
pretty much a heartbreaker, even though you score two, right? Like you would think, hey, we scored 2 goals in a game. We're at least getting a tie or maybe a narrow loss or a win. But to let up 5 goals is just not great. And right now, the defense for Chicago has been struggling. I think their confidence is down, especially coming off that loss to OL Reign. And I don't think that the Red Stars are going to be able to turn that around as quickly as they need to, going up against a Washington Spirit side that has front runners like Ashley Hatch, who's coming off a brace, Trinity Rodman, who's proving to be a game changer every time she's on the pitch for Washington, getting assists, finding the back of the net, her off ball movement. The pairing of Ashley Hatch and Trinity Rodman for Washington is going to cause so many issues for Chicago that I have to give this win to Washington Spirit.
Yeah, I hear you on that 100%. I don't think this is one of those games that you look at and try to make the case for both teams and say, oh, there's like really good pieces on both sides, and like, it's going to possibly be a draw, because another common thread that we're looking at with Chicago Red Stars this year, in just 4 games, they've got one win over their first 4 matches, and don't look like a team in years past where they have sort of been kind of the gritty grinders to just even claw out a draw. We have not seen that from this team yet in their first 4 weeks. It's been heavy score lines for Chicago. Yes, will they be in those games and get us some goals of their own? We've seen that from this team, and only once has it turned into a win for them, or instead of possibly even scraping out a bit of a draw. So I don't know if that is something that is part of this team's identity anymore, because we've yet to see that. And I think if the coaching staff continues to roll out with this very strict formation of a 3-4-3 and not make adjustments against a team that does have very good attackers and are able to make you pay in front of net, then I don't anticipate Chicago walking away with the win in this one. So I'm a huge fan of the play of Trinity Rodman in general, but I think what we've been seeing out of this player in these first 4 weeks is almost MVP caliber to
Yeah,
me.
I was going to
The
say you
spirit
called her an
looked
MVP candidate in Monday's episode.
the spirit look completely different when she is available and ready to go for them. And we saw the difference when she wasn't available with the excuse absent for Challenge Cup, and then her return in the following week. And if she is, rearing and ready to go in this game on the road against Chicago, I think the Spirit are going to take the win.
I like that. So we're both going Spirit with this one. I want to ask about Chloe Ricketts, the young 15-year-old. We saw her make an appearance for Washington just a few weeks ago against North Carolina for the Spirit. I think that was like the 14th, the 15th, 16th of that weekend. Do we see Ricketts again?
I think we do. I think if for whatever reason Chicago is motivated by that heavy loss against OL Reign, perhaps they come out there and they look at that game as an opportunity to really kind of be more organized and present some challenges for the attack, maybe match overloads that they have been facing
Right.
over the last few weeks. And so I think if it gets to a point where the Spirit find themselves in a couple stretches or phases of difficulty in unlocking some things, you absolutely bring in a Chloe Ricketts to tire out some of those organized defenders and open some things up for them. I would love to see a person in person. If I go and am able to watch this game live and in person and do the coverage, I do hope I get to see Chloe Ricketts.
If you actually go to the game, she's not going to get minutes. And if you stay home,
I know. I'm gonna have to
everything's
think very
gonna
hard about it. Maybe flip a coin and see what it comes down to. We'll see. But hopefully we're correct on our picks. We're going Dash. We're going Spirit for the first two of this episode.